so let's see if we can get Corie on the webinar here. Corie, you still with us?
I'm with you. There I am.
Okay, I hear her coming through on, I guess, my phone here. Maybe my volume needs to be turned up.
Can you not hear me?
Oh, yes, I sure can. Thank you, Corie.
Okay.
And are you on the webcam right now?
I am.
Oh, good. Hi. I can't see you, but I'm assuming everybody else can.
I can
we
see
talked
you.
a little bit earlier, and
Patrick,
Corie,
you might make sure that phone is turned off also.
yeah, it's
If you could make sure your phone's turned off, Patrick, we were getting a little bit of feedback.
yeah, it's turned off.
Okay, good.
Still coming through there? Okay. All right, I guess it is. Well, I don't know what's happening today. This is kind of weird, isn't it? All right. Corie, you still with me?
I'm with you.
All right. Well, look, I appreciate you taking time out. Looks like from what I saw earlier when we were talking one-on-one that you're working today out of your home office there.
I sure am. Yes,
That's
I'm
great.
here every day.
Work there every day, yeah. And
Yeah.
Corie is up in top of a mountain somewhere in Utah. We don't give that exact location so that because she's preparing for, I guess, the zombies or something up there, aren't you?
Not quite.
So Corie, let's start with when you actually looked into the business. What were you doing at the time?
I was in the mortgage industry, and I was actually with a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation working in the secondary mortgage market, totally different than medical billing. And the division I was in was eliminated, and my concern was I didn't want to go to work for someone else because your job is never secure. You never know what's going to happen when you're working for someone else and you're dependent on them. I had expected to be with them forever.
Yeah.
And so I decided the only way to feel like I could sleep at night and feel good about the future was if I had control over my future. And I started looking into businesses that I could get into. And really it was kind of a process of elimination, going online and looking at what the various opportunities were. In this case, I kind of knew more what I didn't want rather than what I did. I didn't want a storefront with set hours. I didn't want to be tied to my desk for a certain number of hours every day. I didn't want something where it was a traditional franchise where I'd have to do everything exactly the way I'm told to do it. What I wanted was a business of my own that I could run my own way with support behind me. And that's really through eliminating a lot of things that didn't fit. You kind of rose to the top through that elimination process.
Yeah, it's kind of like all the advantages of a franchise, but you don't have the territorial restrictions and the royalties and all those bad things about the franchising.
Exactly. Yeah. You can make this whatever you want it to be, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to have a lot of I wanted to run my business my own way, and that's what I was able to do.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we want our licensees to think of themselves as. It's your business. You can certainly do whatever you want to do. All we can do is just kind of give you some suggestions, provide you some tools and support and so forth, but you're in complete control of all the decisions that are made about the business itself.
Yeah, I think the thing, though, that was really important to me was the level of support because, you know, being a small business, I only have so many hours a day, and having the support behind me so that I wasn't completely on my own, that allowed me to get the business up and running much faster than I would have if I had been completely on my own. So I had the flexibility that I wanted, but I had the support behind me to be able to actually, as soon as I got home from training, I started immediately bringing in business. I mean, it was just like I hit the ground running the next day and started going out there to find some accounts. And I couldn't have done it that quickly otherwise. So it was exactly what I was looking for.
Now, so you didn't have any background in the medical field at all?
None. No, my only background was that I was a patient and that I had insurance for my family. You know, so I knew what the concept of medical insurance was. I had no experience in the medical field. And my biggest concern was when I started the business, I wasn't in Utah. I was in a metropolitan area, and it was very relationship-driven town. Your reputation, who you know, who knows you, was very important. And I was really concerned that if you go out there and burn bridges, you never repair them. And I didn't want to go out and speak to medical offices and damage my reputation because I didn't know what I was talking about. Where the training, more than anything, taught me how to speak the language, which was huge.
Yeah, you don't want to go out there and seem like you don't know a thing. Of course, you don't know everything when you first go out there, but at least we give you a foundation of knowledge that makes you probably smarter than what 95% of all the office managers. And
Yes, exactly. I think that first meeting I had with the doctor, my knees were probably knocking, but I don't think the doctor knew it because I was saying the right things, because I kind of knew what to expect before I went in there. And that was the preparation that I got going through that week of training.
now, Corie, let's see. At first, of course, you were working with your son, TJ, who's shown in the picture here on the screen right now.
Yeah, that's an
Uh,
old picture.
yeah, this was way back. When was it that you came through training?
I think it was 2007.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
Yeah,
7 years ago. Wow,
yeah.
hard to
It's
believe.
flown by.
I don't look any older than I do right there, by the way.
No, you don't.
Anyway, TJ, of course, you said he got into his own field. He was interested in some.
Yeah, we when we started the business, we were working together, and I primarily took on the marketing, and he took on, keeping the office running and making sure that, accounts were being handled and the day-to-day stuff. And we actually did that for a number of years. And then a few years ago, I had an opportunity to kind of change our life and move out of the city, move to a rural area, and take on a whole new lifestyle. And at that time, we did actually build the business to where we had, when we were in the city, we had a number of people working for us. We had lots and lots of accounts, and it was, pretty much what we had expected that we were setting out to do. All of a sudden, everything changed when I had an opportunity to do something that we hadn't really ever considered doing, and it was just too much to pass up. The good thing was I didn't have to give up the business. I was able to just scale it back to the level I wanted, and now I just pretty much keep the accounts that keep us comfortable financially and gives me a lot of freedom to do the other things I want to do. TJ, young, he was real young when we started the business, and he finished his degree. He actually changed his goals in college. He was going to college and working for me at the same time. He switched his degree to healthcare administration, but he didn't end up staying in the healthcare field. He's now in an agricultural area, but the degree helped him there too, and it's what he always wanted to do. So, he's a country boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the
Well,
nice thing is this gave us the flexibility to make changes and still keep the business going all at the same time. I'm honestly not sure there's anything else I could have been doing where I could have had this kind of flexibility and been able to embrace it the way we did.
now, did you ever open an office, Corie? I forget.
I never wanted to. We had people working for us, but they were working remotely. Many of the people that worked for us were out of state. We didn't have people, really too many people local working for us, and it wasn't necessary because it's online. They can work from anywhere. And because of that, we could get people from, smaller communities, rural areas where honestly we didn't have to pay them as much because they weren't looking for as much money. They wanted to work from home and make a little bit of money to supplement the family income.
Yeah.
So it worked out real well to never open an office and not have the overhead and the costs. And also I didn't want to be tied down to that. I really always was looking for the flexibility. And so to me, and I know there are other licensees that have offices and have a lot of staff and have
Yeah.
been doing huge businesses, but that's the nice thing about this. We can all do what we want to do and it fits our life.
Yeah, and I just heard from a licensee the other day that just opened their own office space. I think it's one of those executive offices they rented for $300 or $400 a month, and it's fine. They have a location, they have a conference room to meet people in, and they just feel more comfortable. And I think it's because this guy has 4 children and he wanted to get away from them.
That sounds like a perfect option in that case,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
There are times where you do, it would be nice to have a conference room to meet people or an office to meet people. And if I were still in the city and doing a lot of marketing, I might have considered eventually doing that. As it turns out, I never really had anything come up where I needed to, which was just fine. So, but the good
You know,
thing
I,
is
I don't
we
know
can
that
do it
I,
any way we want.
well, Linda and I never did. When my wife started doing medical billing back in the late 80s,
Hmm.
we never opened an office because the doctors they don't come see you. I mean, you go see them.
Right,
So wasn't even
exactly.
for an office.
And actually, I have doctors that I'm doing work for that I never met in person because I'm not even in the same state they're in. And we deal over the phone, over the computer, and they're getting paid well, so they don't care.
That's the way they look at it is you can work out of your garage if you want to, or out of the back trunk of your car as long as
As
I get
long
my
as
money.
exactly, if they're getting paid well, which they are, they don't care what we do.
Yeah. Now I
Hmm.
see some questions coming in. Folks, if you haven't typed in your question there, go ahead. I'll take them in the order in which they come in. So if you want to ask Corie a question directly, go ahead. I'm going to be addressing some of those questions. But first, I wanted to show you a picture that Corie sent me. I asked her to send me a more updated picture than this one, and she sent me this. Look at that. She's a cowgirl.
That's this year, yeah.
Now, all you need is a 10-gallon hat there, and maybe a couple
of
six shooters.
I think that would fit, wouldn't it?
So tell us about this part of your life. You changed your lifestyle completely, of course. Now you're up in the middle of nowhere.
I know. I went from city girl, and we're living outside of a town of 2,400 people. And my friends all thought we were out of our minds, that I'd hate it, that I'd be, bored to tears. And of course, exactly the opposite has happened. We moved here and ended up with friends immediately. You know how small towns can be so friendly.
Oh, yeah.
And it's such a beautiful, beautiful resort area up in the mountains. And I just thought, I hate to not be able to explore all those beautiful trails. And I had no experience on horseback at all. And a year ago, I ended up going out and buying my first horse. This is not, the one you see me on there is actually my second horse. This is my mare, Susie. And I have a gelding, Ben, and they're actually the same coloring. They look like they could be brother and sister. And if you put a challenge in front of me, and it's like, okay, I got to try that. And so I knew I wasn't experienced enough in riding, that I was going to end up getting injured. So I started taking lessons. Next thing, lessons led to working with a trainer. I now have a whole group of friends I ride with. We ride every single day, and I'm training my horses in reining, cutting, working cow horse. I can herd cows. I can ride cows down off the mountain. And next season, I'm going to show in cutting. I can spin the horses and do sliding stops and lope circles. And I've come a long way in a year, but still have a long way to go.
That is amazing. But it shows that you can pick whatever lifestyle you want. Now, obviously, you have clients.
What I've done is I've got the accounts running pretty smoothly now. So what I'll do is, I tend to be an early morning person. So I like to get up early in the morning. I check my accounts on my iPad while I'm watching the news and drinking my coffee. And I can get more work done before 6 a.m. than a lot of people get done all day. And I get my accounts all up to date. And then depending on what time the trainer and my friends want to ride, we have a covered arena. We can ride no matter what the weather is, or we'll take a trail ride if the weather's good. And I go and ride for 2 or 3 hours every day, and then I come back and I pick up my work. And, the funny thing is, the people I rode with thought that I was retired and didn't work. And I said, yeah, I work, but I just do it when I want to. And, of course, they're all kind of jealous of that. So
yeah,
it's fit very well. And between the horses and getting out twice a day to feed the cows and chickens, too, keeps me busy. My husband still has to commute to the city, so I end up taking care of the livestock during the week, and then I get a break on the weekends when he's here.
Well, that's good. But you're doing
definitely different lifestyle.
So you're doing most of the work yourself now, is that right? Or do you still have people?
I wasn't before, but when I decided to, kind of scale things back and just fit it around my recreation, I just started doing the work myself. And the nice thing is you can do that. I mean, I was happy when I had other people working for me, but this fits now, and it keeps everything simple for me, and it gives us a really nice income. And so I just as soon keep it the way it is now.
Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what we tell people. Just throttle this business if you need to. If you've got referrals that are coming in and you don't want to take on beyond a certain number of clients, we've always got licensees all over the country that can help you for a fee, of course, with those clients. And so you can build it as big as you want to, have other people do all the work, and you just make a small percentage of all the
Absolutely.
accounts.
Yeah, you have complete flexibility there. Make it what you want it to be so that you can have the life you want. And I don't know what else I could be doing that would give me the flexibility to be able to have fun the way I am too.
Yeah, and I know you started in another state, like you said, a metropolitan area. Tell me about your clients. Somebody's asking here, for example, how long after your training did you secure your first client? This is Nadia. She says, did you know the doctor already?
No, I didn't. I chose, in my case, one of the things you learn in training is all the various ways you can market the business. Because, as good as this business is, if you don't have any accounts, what good does it do you? So you've got to go out and get those accounts. And I knew that was priority number one. I personally think that I'm terrible at sales, and if I had to go out and make cold calls every day, I would probably be the worst procrastinator in the world. Now, I know that there are licensees that go out and make cold calls and have wonderful success. That's their personality. It's not mine.
Right.
So instead, I knew after the training that the way for me to get business was through networking. And then I started the day I got home, that very first Monday, I went out to the Chamber of Commerce. I started not so much to push my business. I take a very low-key approach. I wanted to meet as many people as I could and find out how I could send business to them. And people, when you're trying to help them out and send business to them, it's just human nature that if they're decent people, they want to send business to you.
That's right.
And that's really the approach I take. I never sell. I never push. I'm a consultant. I want the doctor to come to me. I want someone else to recommend me rather than me recommend me. And honestly, that was 100% of my effort in the first month was marketing through networking only. I went to every networking event I could get invited to. I met as many people as I could. And within 30 days, I had that first account. And it came through a networking contact that I made. Someone that I'd never met before met me at a luncheon, introduced me to the doctor. I ended up meeting with the doctor, I think 2 or 3 times that first time I met. And took us exactly 30 days. I started the 1st of the month, and the 31st of the month I had a signed agreement in my hand and a stack of billing that had been piled up in this doctor's office that no one had done. So
Wow.
It was like, jumping into deep water the first day. But with help from support at ABS, I ended up getting the claims all submitted, and they started getting paid. And then what I did, I'm a big believer, you do everything though. You don't just focus entirely on one type of marketing. And, I had such great marketing material from ABS that it was sitting on my shelf. And I thought, this is silly, it's collecting dust. So I worked with an online leads company, where they're selling you sales leads. And they were doing a special promotion and wanted to get your business, so they would give you 100 free sales leads to try them out for everyone in your company. So my son and I were in the business together, so we got 200 free sales leads. And think about it, if they're trying to convince you to use their service, they're going to give you the best leads they can, right?
Sure.
So we ended up working with them real closely to limit where, okay, this is the type of doctor's office we're looking for. This is the kind of location we want to send our mail outs to. And we did a mail out campaign, and we got business from that too. And some of those accounts I still have to this day. So it's worked out. I mean, it was a perfect fit. The networking plus the mail out campaign, very painless for me, very low key, no selling, and I ended up getting multiple accounts that way. So, and then once you have accounts, they lead to others because they recommend you.
Yeah, the referrals is where it grows, doesn't it? Now,
Exactly.
are any of those
Everything I get now is through referrals.
are any of those clients, Corie, out? Well, I started to say outside your city, but you're not really in a city now. So, are they in different states?
Yeah, they're all in different states. And I have actually, for the first time right now here in Utah, I actually just opened an account right here, which is rare because I hadn't even marketed here. I wasn't even looking for business here.
Yeah.
All of my accounts are in other states.
Now, that kind of relates to a question here from Robert. He says, how does the claim information from the doctor's office get to you, for sending all through the clearinghouse?
Oh, it's so easy. We have the iClaim system, which is, as you were talking about before I came on, you were talking about it's web-based, and the doctor has access to it, and they put in all the patient encounters in the electronic health records side of the system. And once they've put an encounter in there that they've seen the patient, what they did with them, what the diagnoses are, then they click on a button and it sends it over to the billing dashboard, and that comes through to me. And I'll go in and check that for my accounts, usually multiple times a day, because I like to really stay on top of things. I kind of take a lot of pride in, I've had so many complaints from doctors when they've come to me that their billing sits there forever. And so I take a lot of pride in being able to get billing submitted the same day I get it from them, and sometimes the same day they saw the patient, which I think is terrific because there's no downtime, no lag in them getting paid. And if you think about it, it's sort of self-serving too, because the sooner they get paid, the sooner I get paid because I get a percentage.
Sure.
So, I want to get those claims in right away. But they come through the system to us, which is very easy. Now, I do have one doctor that's a little bit old school still, and when he sees patients in the hospital, He could put them into the iClaim system, but he just can't seem to get that through his head that he needs to catch up. And he still writes written spreadsheets, and so they fax those to me once a week, and I send in his hospital billing for the patients he's gone to see in the hospital. And, so there are other ways of doing it, but typically the best is to get the claims to come through the iClaim system. And it's so easy. You go through and edit them. You'll learn how to do that in the training. You submit those claims, and if there's an error on them or something that's wrong with it, the system comes right back and tells you. So it's really easy to stay on top of those and get those claims paid.
Yeah, and since you came through the training, I don't know if we had iDocs Now at the time. I don't think we did back 7 years ago. Anyway, we've added iDocs Now, which is our online virtual file cabinet for documents that the doctors can literally, with a little $400 scanner, scan all their information directly into that system, and then licensees can access that from anywhere in the world. So
it's changed just in the few years I've been doing this. It's changed so much. When I think of how much paper I used to have to keep in my office, and nothing anymore is on paper, and it's just amazing how quickly it's changed. But getting the doctors, sometimes they are a little bit slow for change, but once they see how quick and easy this is for their staff and how much they don't need to have so many staff hours going into things when they've got things like this to use, they get on board real quickly.
Yeah, and they actually can save money by outsourcing, and some of them think it's cheaper to keep it in-house when it's really not, is it?
I had one doctor call me about a year ago, and I had spoken to him a number of years ago, actually. And he called me last year and he said, since I spoke to you originally, he just was determined he had to keep his billing in-house. And at the time when I first met him 4 or 5 years ago, he said, if I was going to outsource, I'd outsource with you. But he says, I really want to keep my billing in-house. And that was just a thing with him. Well, he called me last year and he said, since I spoke to you before, I think I've gone through 5 different staff. Every time somebody leaves, it completely messes up our billing. We get behind in getting payments. And he said, I wish I had just given it to you then, and I just didn't know. And he just couldn't get himself to outsource it. And now he says it's so much less expensive to do this, and there are no gaps, there's no delays. And he's had a lot of turnover in the office even since I've been doing the billing, but there's never a problem with his billing going in. His problems are with other staffing issues, not with the billing part. So as long as the money keeps coming in, he can handle everything else.
Yeah, I'm surprised every time I go to my doctor how many new people are back there behind the glass.
Yeah.
Seems
There's
like
a lot of turnover.
All right, let's see. Ted says, hi, Corie. Did you have to tell any new potential clients that you are a brand new company? And if so, how did you handle that?
Yeah, that's always hard when you're brand new. I know that was a challenge for me too. But if you remember a while ago, I said when I went through the training that they helped me to speak the language. Well, one of the things too is they prepare you for the objections that you're going to get. Believe me, you're not the first person to ask this. And every new licensee worries about this.
Yeah.
And in my case, I'm a big believer in you don't lie. You don't go out there and tell someone that you have experience you don't have.
Right.
But you also don't make a big issue out of the fact that, look, I'm brand new and I don't know anything. But you'll learn real quickly that this is a always changing industry and nobody knows everything. And the office managers think they do, the medical office managers, they think they know everything about everything. And then you realize that they really don't know much about anything. And so if you don't know something, it's okay to say you don't know it, and it doesn't necessarily indicate that you're new.
Right.
And the approach that I would always take in the beginning when I didn't have business yet was if someone asked, well, how much experience do you have? How long have you been in the business? I would explain to them that I had recently opened this office, but that I just recently opened the local office. However, I am affiliated with the nationwide network that has been doing the billing for hundreds and hundreds of doctors around the country for many years. And I have all of those resources behind me. Now, I'm not going to tell you I'll have the answer to everything, but I can tell you 2 things. One, I've got great resources to help me get the answer for you. And secondly, I'm the best detective you ever met. I mean, you present me with a problem and I'll find the answer. So between the 2 of those, we'll get you paid. And you know what? It's really in your attitude and your approach. And if you act confident and you kind of just give them an answer and then move on, they usually forget about it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to make a big issue out of, well, yeah, I'm brand new and you're my first account and I don't know anything. I mean, obviously, who would want to do business with someone that doesn't know anything?
Right.
But there are ways of wording it, and they will help you with that, and that will help you get over that hurdle.
Good. Yeah, that's the way to handle it. Okay, Jake says, Corie, how difficult was it to, or how difficult is it to find interested doctors?
Well, if you remember, I told you I'm not good at sales. If you go out and make sales, it's going to be a numbers game like anything else. You're going to probably talk to 100 doctors before you get to, or offices before you get to one doctor that might be interested. Now, one of the things I learned real early on is the doctors will, it's almost like they're afraid to admit they have billing problems. They don't want to say anything. So they do often have billing problems, but they don't want to admit it.
Right.
So having someone say that is kind of rare. If you remember earlier, I was saying that I almost always did networking. So if you think about it, the only time I ever talk to doctors is when they've been referred to me. So, for instance, if I network with a group that has a bunch of, attorneys and accountants and bankers, one of them has a doctor that's a client, and the doctor goes to the banker and says, you know what, I need a line of credit because my cash flow is like this, up and down, and I'm having trouble making payroll every week because my cash flow is so sporadic. And the banker will go to the doctor and say, well, I'll be happy to get started on a line of credit for you. However, in the meantime, I want you to talk to Corie because she can straighten out your cash flow problem, and then you won't even need this line of credit. And that doctor will then come to me, or the banker will come to me and set up a meeting. So if you think about it, by the time I talk to the doctor, you know that he's got a problem and needs your services.
Right.
Even with that said, I can't tell you how many times I'd go in and meet with the doctor and I'd say, oh, I understand that, we want to talk about how to improve your cash flow. Oh, I don't have any problem with my billing. Well, they told their banker they did, but they don't want to admit it. So the
Right.
good thing is you've got so many other services that you can offer them through all of the, the various, remember when he showed you the website and you had all those different boxes on there, and they all are different services that you can offer to medical offices. Well, so okay, take the billing off the table. Good for you. You've got your billing worked out. Most offices don't. And isn't that great? I'm really glad for you. But you know what? You probably could help with your patient collections, or you probably could need help with, whatever. And take out one of your other tools and start talking about that. Well, the interesting thing is, as soon as you take the discussion of billing off the table, the floodgates open and they tell you all these problems they're having getting their billing paid and getting their insurance claims paid. And then all of a sudden, you're not a threat anymore. You're a partner, you're a consultant there to help them. So, you do what it takes to make them comfortable talking about it. But that's how I really don't talk to doctors unless I know they have a problem.
Yeah, you've mentioned the networking a couple of times. We teach a nice session on that. We did back 7 years ago. We still do. We've added to it, in fact, because that is the number one way that most people find clients. They just don't know how to do it. They're scared. There's some mistakes you can make if you don't know what you're doing. They don't know where to meet. So we go through a real good, solid session on that now.
I would pay attention to that in the training because that is going to be so valuable to you.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a couple here that are similar about John says, how did you start getting clients and how did you find the out-of-state staff that you had? Was the staff out of state?
Yeah, most of the time I had people working for me. They were either out of town or out of state.
Were
And
these people
honestly,
you knew or?
I never had a problem finding people. There are always people wanting to do this kind of work because you're going to have probably more people offering to do this than you will ever need. In my case, all of it came through referrals from friends and family. And that way I wasn't getting strangers. I was getting people that were recommended to me by people that I cared and trusted. And I had some really good people working for me.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Raymond says, Corie, what is the percentage fee charged to doctors who are billing approximately $100,000 per month? Can you give us a feel for that? What you're charging percentage?
You know what? Honestly, it's hard to say. I think it kind of varies depending on their location.
Yeah.
And the specialty, but really more the location. I mean, in certain areas, I generally charge, because I tend to have offices that are in smaller communities. I charge maybe 6%. 7 is kind of on the high end of what I charge. I do have occasions where I might charge 5. Kind of depends on whether I'm paying any costs or whether they're paying them. and how much work is going to be involved. And it also depends on what their expectations are. And a lot of it has to do with the community that they're in and what they expect to pay. And I think in larger metropolitan areas, you're probably going to be charging more because they're expecting to pay more.
Yeah.
But in sort of smaller rural areas, you probably will charge a little less. And but I would say, in my case, it's usually in the 5 to 7% range.
Yeah, so that translates, folks, easily. Of course, the math is easy because they used a $100,000 figure here. That's $5,000 to $7,000 a month gross revenue for you as the billing company.
Right.
But believe me, that is cheap compared to what the doctor could be paying to have that done in his own office when you consider all the overhead with the people, the benefits, vacations, software updates, support. There's just no end to what a doctor can spend on that kind of stuff.
It never seems to fail, too. When they have a billing office in their office, they do it in-house. Not only do they have all the benefits and overhead to pay, somehow they always end up creating these little dynasties where they keep adding staff. And before you know it, the billing staff is larger than the rest of the office. And you wonder no wonder they can't afford it.
Right.
But I've never seen it not grow. They always grow.
Yeah.
So, and when they turn it over to us, we're a partner of theirs. We're getting paid when they get paid. So we have a real motivation to get them as much as possible and be as lean as possible for them. And, it works out very well for them.
Yeah, I talked to a licensee the other day, Corie, and I'm sure you've had this same situation where you've actually almost helped a practice stay in practice. The doctor was about to go under because of the financial situation, and their revenue had gone down to half of what it could have been because their staff, again, just doesn't know what they're doing, or their software is outdated. They don't know how to deal with clearinghouses and insurance companies. All of that's an important part of this business, and you're trained to do that.
That's right.
Let's see. Mary Kay says, how is Obamacare single payer affecting the medical billing business? Have you seen anything about the Affordable Care Act that's...
Not really. I mean, we're still yes and no. I mean, the one area that I've seen it affect is payments. There's additional amounts coming out of the doctor's payments now for sequestration. Where if they get a Medicaid or Medicare patient or payment, like an additional 2% will be taken out for sequestration. And that's all related to the government single payer and all. But really, if anything, the only way I think it's been affecting us is the fact that everything does seem to be sort of going more government. And if you think about it, the government payers, Medicare, Medicaid, those are the ones that are the most trouble for doctors. They're the hardest, most bureaucratic, hardest to get through and get answers on. And so what I found is the doctors end up needing us more because their staff can't handle dealing with the Medicare and Medicaid payers. And even the private payers, the private insurance, are using a lot more of the Medicare guidelines in making their decisions. So Medicare has become sort of more powerful in this, and it makes it to where the doctors just can't deal with that themselves anymore. And so and even their staffs are having problems with it. So the more that the more that insurance goes government, the more need there is for help. So I've actually found that it increases their need for us rather than decreases.
Yeah, the insurance companies, of course, were all behind the Affordable Care Act because they knew that would bring them more customers. I mean, it's still the private insurance companies that primarily are supporting the whole Affordable Care Act. And not only that, but in Canada, which has been single payer government run for years and years, almost socialistic up there as far as their healthcare system, they actually have billing companies and companies that train people like we do on how to do medical billing for doctors because the doctors still don't want to deal with all those government entities up there. So you're right. It's even almost a boon to us.
More often than not, if I'm trying to solve a problem for a doctor, an issue that they're dealing with and getting paid, I can almost guarantee you it's with government, not with private sector. And so it just increases their need for, they don't even know where to begin with this stuff. They don't know the language to use with Medicare when they talk to them, and they don't have the time to deal with them. So we kind of become the hero to them when we solve those problems.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ted says, what type of liability insurance do you carry for the business? Do you?
Just a basic errors and omissions policy, but you'll want to talk to, whoever, if you have an accountant or an attorney or whatever, you probably want to talk to them about what, because I don't know that there's any requirement for any kind of insurance.
Yeah, there's not. But you did mention one that I think that I've heard some licensees take out. I don't know of any personally, but I've heard that E&O, errors and omissions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very expensive.
Right. All right, let's see. Margaret says, how do you bill your physicians for your services? On what was received or what was billed?
No, what was received.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the collected money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some people don't understand quite how that works, but basically in our billing system in iClaim, you can see and show the doctor, of course, live in real time, exactly the amount of money that was collected each month, can't you?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I print out a report for them. It's easy to do. And it's just, from this date to this date, this is how many insurance payments I posted for you. And it's very clear. And you can break it down by, if it's an office with more than one provider, more than one doctor, you can break it down that way.
Sure.
There are all sorts of ways you can break down the report. So it's very easy to keep track of that. And that's exactly what I do, is at the end of the billing cycle, I pull up a report that I posted this many payments for this doctor and this many payments for this doctor, and times my percentage, and that's what I bill them. And actually, I've gotten to the point, I really don't want to, I don't want anything more complicated than it needs to be. I'm kind of streamlining everything, and I've gotten to the point where what I do is I send them an invoice and I charge their credit card, and I just get the credit card payment in my account.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I've heard licensees actually set it up with their bank to do a draft on their bank account.
Absolutely.
They send the bill to the doctor and say, now, this is the amount that I'm going to be taking out here. If you have any questions about it, you can ask me, but otherwise, they just take it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do that once a month, Corie, or?
It varies by office. I have some offices that I do twice a month, and some offices have just requested that I do it once a month. And, I look at it as a customer service business. If it's not something that I can't do, I might as well accommodate their needs. And so whatever they prefer, I try to be kind of flexible on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you use a special software to do your invoicing?
I use QuickBooks.
QuickBooks, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we recommend. Everybody nowadays seems to like QuickBooks, and it's easy to generate an invoice and track everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Robert says doctors now seem to be clustering with several doctors to streamline their operation, and has a outsourced billing. How to open that door for their business? Oh, I guess he's saying that doctors have already outsourced their billing if they get into a group of some kind. Do you have any groups, or do you work with individual doctors?
No, personally, I didn't focus on marketing to groups. I wouldn't, if one came my way, I wouldn't turn it away probably.
Sure.
But in my case, I kind of focused on smaller offices for a number of reasons. And really, you're going to make your own business decisions for what fits with you, what you want to do. In my case, I wanted to have a variety of smaller customers rather than have any real large ones that monopolized a lot of my time, so that you have a small, diverse customer base where a number of small accounts, you're not tying up all your time and revenue in any one.
Right.
Also, I kind of liked the idea that some of the larger offices that have invested a lot of money in expensive systems that they brought in to do their billing, and they've got a lot of money on staff to do full billing departments and stuff. And I kind of like the idea of taking a smaller medical office and bringing them up to a level playing field where they could have a nicer system than these larger offices have to do their billing and not be spending that money. And, it was just a really good fit for me. So we chose to look into smaller offices. And then just honestly, when I was new at this, I was anxious to start getting the business to come in. My job had gone away. I was looking to, start getting the income coming in as soon as possible. And I figured that quite honestly, smaller offices were an easier nut to crack. You get one doctor that can give you a decision versus a group of them that's going to have to come to consensus. And I thought I can get those accounts faster. So there were a number of small reasons, really, why I wanted to focus on smaller 1 or 2 doctor practices.
And that's probably, I would say most licensees' target market is the smaller 1 to 4 or 5 doctors. But we do have licensees signing up huge groups. I mean, one the other day, a 26 doctor group. So it does happen, but those are what we think of as the elephants. You need to get a bunch of little rabbits first, in case that elephant keels over dead somewhere down the line. You still have some rabbits left.
Well, and also I kind of wanted to use the smaller offices in the beginning to learn on, so that, I mean, can you imagine if you're learning what you're doing and you've got 26 doctors? I mean, that would be
that would not be the way to start.
Yeah, and I figured to, really get the experience I needed, a smaller office was perfect for that. So, and it just seemed like a nice fit, so I kind of stuck with it.
Yeah. All right. Joshua says, if you acquire a new doctor or practice, how hard is it getting your software implemented?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I've got one right now. I wasn't really looking for any new accounts, but we have a new office opening up in the town I'm in, which is the doctor and his wife are out of town right now. They'll be back next week. So I use this time while they're gone to get the iClaim up and running. And when they get back next week, we'll be spending time together going through the webinars, learning the system, getting it up and running. It's easy. You've got the technical staff that helps you, and I honestly, it's really not that big a deal.
Yeah, no. Shirley says, what about the data entry? I guess maybe she's asking who does it for you. You do most of it now yourself.
I don't have any. Like I said, I find it pretty gratifying to do. In the beginning, I wasn't doing as much of it. I was getting out and doing the marketing. And then when I decided to, move out of the city and kind of scale things back, I just took it on myself and started doing it. And like I was saying, I sit sometimes in the morning and catch up on the news and submit claims on my iPad. I mean, it's just so easy, and that's data entry.
Sure.
So it's not.
People are surprised when they learn how quickly you can put a claim into the system, don't they?
Seconds.
Yeah, it's literally seconds, especially if it's a repeat patient. Let's see. John, in fact, is asking about when you did have people working for you. He says, did you pay a salary and commission or just a flat salary?
I wouldn't have paid commission probably unless I had sales reps or something that would be set up on commission. And I did look into that, but honestly, I was pretty comfortable with the amount of business we were bringing in myself, so I never really focused on getting started with reps. The people where I really wanted the help was in the data entry, although that was never really a big problem to keep up with because it's so quick. Where I found that I was really more inclined to need the help was when a claim would come back and needed follow-up, which aren't that many of them, but if you've got lots of doctors, it's going to take some time for all of those. You might have to call the insurance company, you might have to follow up at the doctor's office, whatever the follow-up needs to be, or go back and get the primary, if they've got multiple insurance companies for this patient, you might have to have the explanation of benefits from the primary insurance to send to the secondary so that they'll pay. So that was more the kind of help I wanted rather than just the data entry. So it felt easier for me to just pay them hourly. And so I just had to keep track of
Were they just independent contractors?
Yes.
Yeah. So you just gave them a 1099 form at the end of the year and said, here's how much money I paid you, and they handle their taxes.
Exactly. The only employees of the company were my son and myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
John's asking, how many clients do you currently have after 7 years?
Well, I had, 20-some, which was comfortable for us. As I said, I scaled back because I moved out of the city, and now I just want enough that my husband and I are trying to get everything paid off so that when we retire, we'll have no debt at all. And so I'm just looking to make money for that. So what do I have? 5, I think, right now. And then I have a new one that I'm just bringing in. But they're all smaller offices, and I could stay on top of those pretty well myself.
How many would you say you had when you got to a certain number that one person couldn't actually file the claims?
That's a hard one to answer because every account's so different. I had some accounts that they were the largest income generating accounts for me, where I was making more money on these accounts than on any other accounts I had. But they were large claims, and I was only filing maybe 2 to 3 claims a day for this office, these 2 offices, 2 to 3 claims per office. So it was such a small volume that, it was a large amount of income for me, but I was able to stay on top of that completely by myself because it didn't take much time. Then on the other hand, I had one account that was just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of claims every week, and just because of the sheer volume of it, didn't generate as much income for me as this other account did. Good, but not to the same level. But because of that, I had, I think, 3 people working on that account in addition to myself. So
Wow.
it really just depends on the size of the accounts. A small office, once you get it up and running, if you're organized, you can handle a number of accounts by yourself before you need to bring in help.
Yeah.
The other thing too, though, is if you're trying to, like in my case, I'm not really out marketing anymore. If you're trying to market for more accounts, you may want more help sooner so that you can be out freeing you up to get more business.
Sure.
So that's gonna be a factor also.
Yeah. All right, we're getting close to the hour here, Corie. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions here, and we'll let you go. Margaret says, "How long did it take you to recover the ABS licensing fee?"
I would say, remember, I got the first account, and it was a decent, steady account as far as steady income for us right from the start. I would say I got that in 30 days, probably within the first 6 months.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
good. Of course, the licensing fee 7 years ago was a little less than it is now, but you give inflation in there, and the fact that we've added a whole bunch of other services since you came on board, people are still, recuperating their fee. In fact, one young lady who's never been to our training, by the way, she just did it all by watching some videos out in California. She's said she got her feedback within 6 months as well. Okay, let's see. Alan says, "What is your most successful avenue of marketing? Sales lead company that you mentioned earlier, networking. What about social media?"
It's changed so much since I started, because even just a few years ago, the internet wasn't quite what it is today, and I don't think it was something I would have even thought of doing then. And now, if I was starting now, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see, work on, getting yourself elevated to the top of the search when, or work on, do you offer any training in social
We
media?
do tell people all the different ways that they can do it. Of course, that's a whole other subject that people can
Yeah, it is. Personally, I know the doctors are looking a lot more on the internet than they were back when I started.
They are.
So I would say absolutely do it.
Yeah,
But
LinkedIn.
at the same
is
time, I tend to think that nothing replaces personal contact.
That's true.
And I wouldn't do just the social network, social media, or just SEO, or just mail out, because you don't have any personal touch.
No.
And it's still, like it or not, a relationship business. They want someone that they feel comfortable, that they can trust with. This is their bread and butter.
Sure.
This is, they want to know that they're dealing with someone that they can trust, and it helps that you're getting recommended by someone they already know and trust, but still you have to develop that relationship with the doctor too. And so I would find a way of doing some kind of personal touch as well. I personally am just a big believer in networking.
Yeah, you can't just sit and post on Facebook or LinkedIn and think that people are just going to call you up and ask you to come do their billing. So
no, you do that in addition.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, Ted says, "What is the time frame your doctors are getting paid through your company, Corie, versus their other solution before meeting you?" What kind of turnaround in the?
Yeah, the doctors that I've gotten that were outsourcing before, one of the biggest complaints was, well, 2 complaints that I get from them. One, they feel like they turn over their billing and it falls into this big black hole, and they don't know what's going on. And they felt that their billing person was sitting on their billing for weeks before submitting it. So first of all, the fact that I submit it the day I get it or within a 24-hour period is a huge improvement for them. How fast the turnaround is going to be after that is really dependent on the insurance company. Medicare and most of the insurance companies that are paying electronically, 7 to 10 days is pretty typical. Sometimes it's less. I've had some TRICARE, which is military, pay in 2 days. So, it can be, but 7 to 10 days is pretty much the normal turnaround time. Now, with that said, I do have some doctors that have a lot of patients with small regional insurance companies that are, no matter what you do, they are not going to pay a claim until 30 days. And that's just the way they are. So, and we can't do anything about that except that we submit it immediately so that 30 days from the time they saw the patient, that check is at the doctor's. So it's going to vary depending on the insurance. But Medicare, most of the large commercial carriers, about 7 days is pretty typical.
Yeah. All right, Corie, one last question here. We'll wrap up with Robert's. I know there's some that I didn't get to here, folks, but I'll try to answer some of these for you even after Corey's gone. This one is, Robert's just asking about the mix of doctors that you have. What type of medical practices do you bill for?
Well, the ones that I'm working right now, I have, I love general practice. I love internal medicine, general practice, just because they're so easy and quick, and just they see lots of variety of patients, and you see all sorts of, basic claims coming through. You don't have to get a lot of pre-authorizations. It just streamlines the process. I personally just like those. I do have a general family practice. I have an OBGYN. I normally stay away from chiropractic because they don't get as many patients with insurance that'll cover. But in this case, this guy talked me into doing it because he knew me personally and said, please take care of my billing. And actually, he's doing okay. So it's worth probably having him. He does a lot of kind of wellness type stuff in addition. I'm just in the process of bringing on a new account that does orthopedics. And I have a podiatrist, and
oh, that is a good mix.
I've had some really different ones in the past too. I've worked with, I had an ambulance company, which was huge to deal with. They were large. I had sleep centers that do sleep studies, which were very lucrative. And I had some gastroenterologists. I've had others, OBGYNs in general practice along the way. But I never limited myself to any particular specialty. I didn't feel like I had that luxury. I just wanted business. So,
right. Yeah.
And it gives you a nice variety too. I don't know that I'd want to do the same thing all day for every doctor. This gives me some.
I know licensees who kind of have specialized in maybe a podiatrist or pediatricians or whatever, because that's their first one was that, and the next referral was that, and so so they kind of specialized.
And that's fine.
But that's fine.
I was just happy that I got a nice mix, and I think it gives me a lot of variety, which is great.
Yeah. Corie, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Me.
You're welcome.
It was fun.
Hey, let us know if there's anything we can do for you, of course, as usual.
I will. Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.
Okay.